Have you ever found yourself in that quiet, desperate moment? The one where your heart aches for a person who hurt you, a person you know deep down isn't right for you? It's a feeling of profound cognitive dissonance, a battle between the truth you know and the hope you cling to. You tell yourself, this is the last time, and yet a few days, a week, or a month later, you find yourself back in the very same place, unraveling the very same thread of pain. Why is it that even after all the pain, the promises broken and the tears shed, you feel an almost magnetic pull back to the very place you swore you'd never return? What if the love you keep chasing is a mirror of a love you were never truly given, a primal unconscious yearning to finally complete an unfinished story? What if the intense, volatile nature of the relationship, the very thing that makes it so painful, is what your body and mind have been conditioned to interpret as love? At LoveThreads, we don't just talk about relationships, we deconstruct them. We blend authentic, grounded insights with robust, evidence-based psychology, giving you the real intelligence on why we connect, why we sometimes misstep, and how to truly thrive when love feels like a constantly shifting landscape. Tonight, we're unraveling the intoxicating yet destructive cycle of the trauma bond and exploring how to break free. The familiarity of pain and the pursuit of the impossible. We're taught that love is a gentle, safe harbor, a place of unwavering acceptance and mutual growth. But what happens when that relentless pursuit of connection turns into a slow, silent collapse of self? We mistake the drama for passion, the insecurity for a sign of love's profound depth. We find ourselves in a constant state of emotional whiplash, where the intense highs of reconciliation are followed by the devastating lows of withdrawal. This emotional roller coaster, which our culture often romanticizes in films and songs, is in fact a sign of deep dysfunction. In a world of dating apps, infinite options, and self-help advice, why are so many of us still so profoundly lonely, so desperately tethered to the very people who make us feel unseen? You're not too much, but maybe you learn to shrink, to quiet your needs and dim your light just to stay loved. This isn't a simple story of bad choices. This is a journey into the intricate and often bewildering landscape of the human heart, where the paths we take are not always chosen by our conscious minds. We are navigating a relational maze, a blueprint of survival laid down long ago. The inner child within us, wounded and seeking, often mistakes the familiar chaos for love. It's an echo from a time when stability was a luxury and love felt conditional. We carry a void within us, and we are unconsciously drawn to people who seem to hold the missing puzzle piece, only to find that their presence widens the chasm. This is where codependency meets the loyalty to invisible, unspoken family burdens, a deep-seated, often unconscious promise we make to ourselves to remain in the familiar emotional landscape of our ancestors. We are not just seeking a partner, we are attempting to finally win a battle that was never ours to fight. This is the stage of psychosocial development where we are meant to achieve intimacy, but instead we are trapped in a state of isolation, unable to truly connect because our sense of self is not yet solid. The yearning to merge with another person, to find our identity in a union, is a powerful drive. But when that drive is rooted in an unhealed past, it leads us down a path of self-annihilation, not true intimacy. We are chasing a fantasy of love that in its very essence is built on the quicksand of our unaddressed pain. The very intensity of the relationship, the high-stakes emotional roller coaster, feels more real and more alive than a quiet, secure connection. This is the ultimate paradox of the trauma bond. The deeper the pain, the more profoundly attachment feels, trapping us in a self-perpetuating cycle of suffering and temporary relief. We become so accustomed to this cycle that the very idea of calm, consistent love feels foreign and uninteresting, our brains and bodies conditioned to the adrenaline of conflict and the dopamine rush of making up. The dilemma is this. Our head knows we should leave, but our heart, our nervous system, and our deepest, most primal programming tell us to stay and fight for a love that will never be what we need it to be. The scripts we reenact are not just narratives. They are the living, breathing manifestations of a subconscious emotional script. These are the archetypes that get caught in the web of the trauma bond, and by understanding them, we can begin to see our own story with greater clarity. Consider the person who, from a very young age, learned that love was earned by being useful, by tending to the emotional needs of others while their own were left unmet. This individual is the caregiver, the little adult who became the peacemaker, the organizer, the one who held the emotional space for everyone else. As a child, their parents were a study in emotional distance and anxiety. Their father, a man of great ambition, was emotionally 1,000 miles away, present in body but absent in spirit. Their mother, overwhelmed by her own anxieties, used the child as her confidant, her emotional crutch. The child learned that their worth was tied to their ability to soothe her mother's fears and to get a rare, fleeting moment of recognition from their father. They were rewarded for their empathy and self-sacrifice, but never for simply existing as a child. This created a deep-seated belief that love is conditional, something that must be earned through constant giving and self-denial. This becomes their archetypal script. Now, as an adult, this caregiver finds themselves in a relationship with a charismatic but profoundly inconsistent partner. He is a whirlwind of charm and intensity, followed by periods of emotional withdrawal. He showers them with affection and promises one day, making them feel like the most important person in the world, only to disappear the next, leaving them to wonder what they did wrong. He promises to change, but always reverts to his old patterns. The caregiver's inner script, the one they have been running since childhood, sees his volatility not as a red flag, but as a challenge, an opportunity to finally heal someone. They believe that if they can just love him enough, care for him enough, fix him enough, then he will finally become the stable, loving partner they crave. The caregiver's internal monologue is a constant negotiation. If I am just a little bit more patient, if I give him just a little more space, if I don't ask for too much, then maybe, just maybe, this time it will be different. But it never is. This internal narrative is the voice of a wounded child, desperate for a different ending to an old story. They are not just in love with him, they're loyal to a broken system, a family script of self-sacrifice and unfulfilled longing. The caregiver's energy is not a resource, but a commodity, traded for fleeting moments of love that only deepen their sense of worthlessness. Their love is a desperate bid for security, a frantic attempt to create a stable home in a storm. Then there's the survivor. Growing up in a household with unpredictable, explosive anger or emotional chaos, they learned to walk on eggshells. Their body became a finely tuned instrument, constantly scanning the environment for threats. Love to this person was synonymous with intensity, a high-stakes game where peace was always temporary. The peaceful, steady kind of love feels boring, even unsafe. Their nervous system is hardwired to be in a state of high alert, a perpetual state of fight or flight. Their parents' relationship was a battlefield, a cycle of explosive fights and passionate makeups. The survivor learned that love was not a quiet stream, but a volatile storm. The more intense the conflict, the more powerful the reconciliation. When this survivor meets a partner who is calm and emotionally stable, they feel an unnerving quietness. Their brain, accustomed to the familiar adrenaline rush of conflict and reconciliation, interprets this peace as a prelude to abandonment. They will unconsciously create drama or be drawn to partners who do, just to feel the familiar rhythm of the fight or flight cycle. It's a paradox. The safety they intellectually crave is the very thing their body rejects. Their longing for a healthy connection is overshadowed by a subconscious loyalty to the only kind of love their nervous system recognizes, the kind that hurts. This person is acting out of a deep-seated instinct to survive, a pattern so ingrained that it feels like a fundamental part of who they are. They are, in a sense, a warrior for their own pain, fighting a battle that their past has already scripted. Their internal voice is a chorus of fear. This is too good to be true. When will the other shoe drop? I need to be ready. And so they either provoke the very chaos they fear, or find a partner who will do it for them, thus proving their deep-seated beliefs about love and safety to be true. This person's sense of self-worth is intertwined with their ability to withstand emotional hardship. They see themselves as strong because they can endure the pain, failing to see that true strength lies in their ability to demand and receive authentic, safe love. Finally, we encounter the drifter. This is the person who learned early on that relying on others for emotional support was a liability, a vulnerability to be avoided at all costs. Their parents were perhaps not explosive, but rather emotionally distant and self-reliant, teaching by example that showing need was a sign of weakness. The child learns to retreat into themselves, to become a master of their own universe, and to find comfort in solitude. Their loyalty to their family system is not of enmeshed chaos, but of detached independence. In their relationships, the drifter is charming, seemingly carefree, and fiercely autonomous. They are drawn to the high-intensity, all-consuming love of a trauma bond, not because they want to fix it, but because it feels like a powerful, temporary distraction from the deeper fear of genuine intimacy. The tumultuous nature of the relationship, with its cycles of emotional pursuit and withdrawal, gives them a ready-made excuse to maintain distance. The drama provides a convenient shield, preventing the relationship from ever reaching the level of true emotional vulnerability and interdependence, the very thing their subconscious is terrified of. Their inner dialogue is a constant justification for their emotional unavailability. I'm not built for that kind of neediness, or this relationship is too much drama for me, all while unconsciously fueling the very drama they claim to be avoiding. Their loyalty is to their own self-sufficiency, a powerful but lonely fortress they were taught to build. Their constant emotional unavailability becomes the perfect mirror for the caregiver's relentless pursuit, creating a dance of two wounded archetypes, each one validating the other's deepest fear while masquerading as love. Unraveling the threads of the mind and the body. What you're experiencing isn't a personal failure, it's the manifestation of a deep biological and psychological pattern. The real reason you keep going back is rooted in a phenomenon called a trauma bond. A trauma bond isn't about traditional love. It's a powerful emotional attachment to a person who is both the source of your comfort and your pain. This bond is forged in a cycle of intermittent reinforcement, a period of intense affection and closeness, followed by a period of neglect, cruelty, or emotional withdrawal. This cycle creates a potent cocktail of neurochemicals in the brain. The periods of stress trigger the release of cortisol, our stress hormone, and adrenaline, activating our survival instincts. Our limbic system, the emotional center of the brain, is on high alert, scanning for danger. Then, when the partner returns with affection or remorse, the brain is flooded with dopamine and oxytocin, the feel-good chemicals. This powerful contrast creates an intense high, a profound sense of relief and connection that we mistake for true love. It's a primal, addictive loop that convinces us that the person who hurts us is also the only one who can save us. It's a biological and psychological trap. The brain literally becomes addicted to the cycle, seeking the temporary relief that follows the pain. 1. The neurochemistry of the bond. Addiction to a person. The brain's reward system, particularly the release of dopamine, is a key player in this destructive cycle. When the relationship is in its good phase and the person receives affection or validation, the brain is flooded with dopamine, creating a sense of pleasure and satisfaction. This is the same chemical released during moments of addiction to substances. The intermittent nature of the bond, the unpredictable pattern of good and bad, makes this dopamine release even more powerful and addictive. The brain is not just seeking love, it's seeking the high of the reward.
Conversely, when the partner withdraws, our stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, flood our system. This is the body's natural response to a perceived threat. We experience this as anxiety, panic, and a desperate need to fix the situation. The return of the partner and the subsequent flood of dopamine and oxytocin doesn't just feel good, it feels like survival. Our brain learns that the only way to escape the terrifying state of anxiety is to get the fix from the person who caused it in the first place. This creates a deeply ingrained, almost impossible to break neurochemical loop. This physiological hijack is so potent that it bypasses the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for logic, rational thought, and long-term decision-making. When the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, is screaming that you're in danger of abandonment, your logical brain shuts down. This is the biological reason you know better but keep going back. 2. The attachment blueprint and negative cycles. This pattern is a direct result of an insecure attachment style, most often an anxious one. An anxious attachment style is formed when a child's caregivers are inconsistent in their responses. The child learns that love is unpredictable and that they must be hypervigilant to maintain closeness. This creates an adult who is constantly on high alert, scanning for signs of abandonment and seeking constant reassurance. The trauma bond mirrors this childhood experience, making it feel strangely familiar and, in a twisted way, right. The emotional wiring of this individual, as explored in emotionally focused therapy, can lead to a negative cycle of communication. This cycle often involves one partner, the anxiously attached individual, pursuing closeness with increasing intensity, and the other, often avoidantly attached, withdrawing in response. The avoidant partner, who learned early in life that relying on others leads to pain or disappointment, values independence and fears emotional engulfment. The pursuer then feels abandoned, and the withdrawer feels suffocated, reinforcing a painful feedback loop. This dance, while destructive, becomes a predictable and, therefore, in a twisted way, safe pattern. The real genius of EFT is its recognition that beneath the anger and withdrawal are two people in pain, both desperately seeking a secure connection. The pursuer's anger is a mask for their fear of abandonment, and the withdrawer's distance is a mask for their fear of being overwhelmed. The trauma bond weaponizes these attachment fears, creating a constant state of emotional siege. 3. The family constellation and unconscious loyalties. In many cases, these patterns are not just personal, they are generational. The work of family constellations suggests that we are unconsciously loyal to the unspoken wounds of our family system. We are born into a family's history, and often, without our conscious awareness, we inherit their emotional burdens. This is a deep, energetic loyalty to the pain of our ancestors. If our grandmother was abandoned or our father suffered a deep betrayal, we may subconsciously carry that burden. We are reenacting their unfinished stories in our own relationships, not out of choice, but out of an invisible loyalty to our ancestors. When a person keeps going back to their emotionally unavailable partner, they aren't just seeking a new outcome for themselves. They are unconsciously trying to heal a wound that has been passed down through generations. They are an emotional soldier in a war they didn't start, trying to bring peace to a family system that has been long out of balance. This is the weight of ancestral trauma, a ghost in our relational machine. Breaking this loyalty requires a profound act of self-awareness and courage, a choice to say, "This is not my story to finish." For example, a child of divorced parents may subconsciously believe that a relationship is doomed to fail, and so they find themselves in a relationship with a partner who is perpetually on the brink of leaving, thus fulfilling the family prophecy and feeling a strange sense of belonging to their family's narrative of loss. 4. Depth psychology, the shadow, and individuation. The concept of the shadow is also at play here. The shadow is the part of ourselves we deny or repress, our fears, our insecurities, our unacknowledged wounds. When we encounter a partner who embodies our shadow, there is a powerful, often unconscious attraction. We project our own unhealed parts onto them, believing that by loving them, we can finally heal ourselves. The relationship becomes a crucible for this deep internal work, a painful but often necessary process of self-confrontation. This is where we learn about ourselves, not just through our triumphs, but through our struggles. We see our own unhealed parts reflected back to us, and we are given a choice: to run from the reflection or to finally embrace the work of integrating our own light and shadow. The archetypes we play, the caregiver, the survivor, the hero, the victim, are all expressions of this inner landscape. The trauma bond forces us to confront these deeply ingrained patterns, offering a path to individuation, the process of becoming a fully integrated self. It is a powerful, if painful, wake-up call to the truth of who we are. The partner in a trauma bond often becomes the container for our unconscious anima animus, the idealized opposite-gender image of our soulmate. This projection makes the relationship feel fated, almost cosmically significant, even as it falls apart in the real world. We are not just loving a person, we are desperately trying to love a part of ourselves through them, a task that is doomed to fail. 5. Communication and the breakdown of connection. In these volatile relationships, the very tools for healthy connection are weaponized or corrupted. The cycle of conflict often devolves into what one researcher famously termed the 4 horsemen: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. These are not just bad habits, they are relationship-ending behaviors. Criticism is not a simple complaint, it's an attack on a person's character. You're always so selfish. Contempt is even worse. It's a sign of disgust or disrespect. You're pathetic. Defensiveness is a reaction to criticism, where one partner refuses to take responsibility. Stonewalling is the ultimate shutdown, where one person completely withdraws. In a trauma bond, these behaviors are rampant, killing any hope of a genuine connection. We stop making simple bids for connection, which are small gestures that signal a desire for emotional closeness. Instead, our attempts to communicate our needs become attacks. We see our partner not as a teammate, but as an opponent. We confuse our 5 love languages with their perceived lack of affection, creating a deeper chasm that nonviolent communication becomes impossible when both individuals are operating from a place of fear and emotional dysregulation. The trauma bond thrives in this environment, using a breakdown in communication to further entangle the partners in their cycle of pain and fleeting relief. The most tragic aspect is the way we confuse the language of love. A person who gives love through acts of service might be with a person who needs words of affirmation, leading to a constant, painful miscommunication where both partners feel unseen and unappreciated. This failure to speak the same emotional language creates a deep void that the volatile cycle of the trauma bond rushes in to fill.
6. The philosophy of love, from feeling to practice. Beyond the personal, the trauma bond speaks to a larger crisis in modern love. Thinkers on intimacy and desire argue that we've confused comfort with intimacy. We seek constant stimulation and validation, which a trauma bond, with its dramatic highs and lows, provides in abundance. This volatile dynamic can feel more alive than the quiet, steady intimacy that requires courage and vulnerability. The trauma bond promises an escape from the profound loneliness of our time, but it delivers an even more isolating form of connection, one where true mutual understanding is impossible. Distinguishing between a sentimental, romanticized view of love and transformative love, which she defines as an active practice of will, intention, and respect. A trauma bond is a passive, chaotic feeling, while transformative love is a conscious choice, a daily commitment to mutual growth and well-being. It is an immature form of love, as Eddie focused on filling an emptiness rather than on active, respectful giving. It's a love that is not about growth, but about filling a void. This is where we must distinguish between love as a feeling and love as a choice. A trauma bond is a feeling, a powerful, addictive, and often painful one. True love is a choice,
a daily practice of respect, honesty, and mutual care. This is the distinction that holds the key to breaking free. Rewriting the narrative from survival to thriving. The power of this understanding is not to shame you for your past choices, but to illuminate the script you've been reading from. This isn't a story of weakness. It's a story of survival. You've been living out a loyalty to a past that doesn't define your future. The first step in rewriting this narrative is to stop outsourcing your worth to the echoes of your childhood. When you feel the pull to go back, ask yourself, is this truly about this person, or is this about an old, familiar ache inside of me? This is the moment of conscious pause, where you interrupt the unconscious pattern and introduce a new variable, self-awareness. The goal is to shift your emotional GPS. Instead of seeking the familiar highs and lows of the trauma bond, we must learn to tolerate the quiet, sometimes uncomfortable piece of a healthy connection. Your nervous system has to be retrained, like a muscle that has grown accustomed to a certain kind of strain. You are retraining your body and mind to recognize that true safety isn't a dramatic relief. It's a gentle, persistent presence. This is a journey of self-differentiation, a process of knowing who you are, what you feel, and what you need separate from your partner's needs and emotions. It's about building a solid sense of self so that you can enter a relationship as a whole person, not as someone looking for another to complete them. It's about understanding that your identity is not tied to your ability to fix, to save, or to endure. You're not a hero in a tragic love story. You are the author of a new one. This new narrative is built on the pillars of vulnerability and courage. It takes immense courage to turn away from the familiar, even when it's painful. It requires vulnerability to sit with the discomfort of a healthy, stable love, to trust that its lack of drama is not a precursor to abandonment, but the foundation of true peace. This is the work of transforming our relational wounds into sources of wisdom and strength. Practical steps for liberation. Rewiring your compass. The journey out of a trauma bond isn't a single leap, but a series of intentional steps that re-educate your nervous system and your heart. It requires a shift from a reactive state to a proactive, conscious one. 1. Embrace somatic awareness. Your body holds the trauma. You can't just think your way out of this. You have to feel your way out. Practice grounding exercises like deep breathing, mindful walking, or a simple hand-to-heart sensation. When you feel the anxiety or the magnetic pull to reconnect, instead of acting on it, pause and notice the physical sensations in your body. This act of observation without judgment helps to calm the amygdala and regain control over your prefrontal cortex. It's about teaching your body that the absence of chaos is not a threat, but an opportunity for peace. 2. Parent your inner child. The desperate longing you feel is often the voice of a wounded inner child. Sit with that feeling. Acknowledge its pain and its desire for love and safety. You can speak to it gently, reassuring it that you are now the adult and you will not abandon it. This is an act of radical self-love, giving yourself the consistent, unconditional love you've been seeking from others. You become your own source of safety, and in doing so, you break the cycle of needing someone else to validate your worth. 3. Build a new narrative. Our stories are powerful. The old story says, I am only worthy of love if I am fighting for it. The new story says, I am worthy of a love that is safe, consistent, and respectful. Consciously identify the toxic patterns of your past and intentionally choose to build new ones. Journaling, therapy, or simply talking with a trusted friend can help you articulate this new narrative, transforming the narrative from a tragedy into a journey of triumph and self-discovery. 4. Redefine intimacy. The intense highs and lows of a trauma bond are not true intimacy. They are emotional chaos. True intimacy is built on vulnerability, empathy, and courage. It is the quiet, everyday moments of connection, of shared joy and mutual support. By seeking out these moments in platonic friendships and in your relationship with yourself, you begin to understand what a healthy, authentic connection actually feels like. You are not just breaking a bond, you are learning to cultivate genuine love. The turning point, the choice to belong to yourself. But what if your constant giving, your relentless pursuit of love from the unavailable, wasn't a flaw? What if it was your soul's cry to finally be seen, to finally be loved in the way you deserved? This pain you feel isn't a sign that you're broken. It's a signal that there is a deep, unfulfilled longing for a love that is pure, safe, and true. Healing begins when you stop looking for your worth and the wreckage of a broken relationship and start seeking it within yourself. You can belong to yourself without abandoning the possibility of connection. This isn't about becoming a loner. It's about becoming your own home, a safe harbor you can always return to, no matter the storm. This is the moment of deep, sacred truth. The turning point isn't about finding a new person. It's about finding the lost parts of yourself and bringing them home. It's about choosing yourself not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of radical self-love. It's about finally giving yourself the safe, consistent, and unconditional love you've been desperately seeking from others. The new story begins not with a hello to a new partner, but with a quiet, loving hello to yourself.
So, ask yourself, where did you first learn that love meant disappearing, compromising your needs, or fighting for scraps of affection? What would it feel like to love without losing yourself in the process? Maybe the most radical thing you can do is to not go back, not to chase the familiar ache, but to choose a new path, a path toward yourself. This journey is not a race to a destination. It's a process of unraveling, of patiently untangling the threads of your past from the fabric of your present. It's about finding the courage to be vulnerable, to set boundaries, and to communicate your needs, not as demands, but as expressions of your own inherent worth. It is about understanding that a healthy relationship is not a puzzle where two halves fit perfectly together, but a dance between two whole, self-aware individuals who choose to move together in harmony. Remember, the love you are capable of giving is a direct reflection of the love you are willing to give to yourself. By breaking the cycle of the trauma bond, you are not just healing yourself, you are healing the generations before you and creating a new legacy for the generations to come. You are not just changing your love story, you are changing your family's history. If this stirred something in you, subscribe to LoveThreads. We're not here to fix you. We're here to remember who you are.